By 1934, Roosevelt had been president for a year. Yet in spite of all his New Deal programs, hard times persisted.
The Depression was too deep. The origins, the roots of the problem were too deep.
The government had spent over $2 billion for relief, but thousands of new people were forced on the welfare rolls each day.
The numbers of people who are on welfare rise to a quarter of an American city. One reporter in 1934 comes upon a couple living in a cave in Central Park in New York. And there was a sense that the New Deal, although it improved things greatly from the worst days of the Great Depression, was not really getting the country back to prosperous days again.
Despair turned to anger. Violent protests and strikes swept across the country. Bewildered and frightened, many Americans were drawn to agitators calling for reforms more radical than Roosevelt's.
I dared you and challenged you to organize so that the people, if not the president...
Father Charles Coughlin, a maverick Catholic priest from Detroit, turned radio into a pulpit from which he blasted the New Deal, demanding a living annual wage and nationalization of the banks.
Who then is the inflationist? Roosevelt or the National Union?
Francis Townsend, a retired California doctor, galvanized millions of supporters by advocating a plan for old age pensions. And Senator Huey Long from Louisiana, with his Share Our Wealth program, had his eye on the presidency. "I can take him," Long said of Roosevelt. "He's scared of me. I can outpromise him, and he knows it. His mother's watching him, and she won't let him go too far. He's living on an inherited income. People will believe me, and they won't believe him." Roosevelt's consensus was beginning to unravel. During the euphoria of his first 100 days in office, even Republicans had supported him. Now they turned against him.
The New Deal is government from above. It is based on the proposition that the people cannot manage their own affairs and that a government bureaucracy must manage for them.
Republicans charged that government was becoming too big and too intrusive.
We do not want to see these alphabetical bureaucratic agencies become permanent fixtures in our national political life.
Roosevelt grew increasingly frustrated as business began to accuse him of meddling with free enterprise. When he regulated the stock exchange and the banks, the captains of American industry were outraged.
They thought he had come in, he had done a very good job, those first 100 days were all right, but now he should give us a chance to take back and run the country as we always had been accustomed to running it. He had a different idea about that.
With the election just 2 years away, the attacks on Roosevelt became more intense than ever. Angry businessmen founded the Liberty League, dedicated to stopping further New Deal legislation.
The discovery of what a political wizard he was what fired a lot of hatred of Roosevelt, because they'd thought of him as somebody they could manipulate, a splendid, well-meaning, rather genteel type. That's what they thought. Then they discover they have an absolute master politician, mischief maker, cunning man, and they hated him all the more because they'd been fooled.
Then, on May 27, 1935, a day New Dealers would remember as Black Monday, the Supreme Court struck at the very heart of Roosevelt's hope to stimulate the economy. They declared the NRA, the National Recovery Act, unconstitutional. And it was just the first blow. The court was moving against Roosevelt's efforts to abolish child labor, establish a minimum wage, boost farm prices. Law by law, the court would attempt to dismantle the work of the first 100 days.